Hey everybody, and welcome to another video. This is the Great Pyrenees, and this is your daily dose of communism. If you've been listening to any of the other videos on my channel, you'll know that I talk about the Black Lives Matter movement and the Antifa movement. A lot of people, basically, I would say a vast majority of people do not understand that these movements are direct byproducts of Soviet Union subversion tactics that have been implemented in our country since the 1950s in our university structure, and they have kind of worked their way down the KGB agents at that time wind up basically subverting college students during this era between the 50s and 60s. One of the reasons why I believe the 60s, we saw one of the biggest, if not the biggest, social revolution in the history of America. I think it had a lot to do with the communist subversion at the time. Many decades later, this has all turned on its head. These students have become teachers, and they've become part of our political power structure, and they have gone on to further the agenda of communist sympathizers. Twitter is a bastion of communism and subversion tactics, and I'm going to show you right now. The abolish the police stance. Mr. Gomer here says, abolish the police is a communist position. Neighborhood defense organizations were discussed by Marx, Engels, and Lenin. And he's right. Abolish the police is a communist position. The Black Lives Matter organization has already come out. The co-founder has admitted she is a trained Marxist. If you went on their website, if you go on the Wayback Machine, I have a video where I show you how they call each other comrade. And on Twitter, there is no shortage of people who are actually communist and who are not afraid to admit it. You have that, and you also have what I would... the problem with subversion is you don't really know where it's coming from. You can recognize it when you see it happening. It's one of the things that Yuri Bezmenov, who's an ex-KGB agent, spoke about. He said that you can recognize it, but it is, it is a very... it's elusive to pin down where it's coming from. But I'm about to show you some very interesting things that you can find on Twitter. This man here, who Krasnaya, I'm not sure exactly where he is. He's a proud working class communist, so he's out in the open. He's not afraid to admit it. He's got a fairly good following, and about over 500 followers. He says here that there is a difference between capitalist police and socialist defense. Police enforce class and race hierarchies, which that's not what they do. The police enforce laws. They enforce what is written down on paper. A lot of people are under the impression that we live in a democracy. We don't. We actually live in a federated republic. We do have certain democratic privileges and rights, such as electing state officials. As a matter of fact, I don't know if people are aware of this, but electing a president is actually a privilege that the state gives us. The 50 states retain the right solely to elect a president. They do not have to give that to the people. The Constitution explicitly assigns the right for the state to choose electors to elect the president. But in all cases, in all 50 states, the state has had federal elections to give us more of a democratic process in the Republican federation that we live in. But the main thing that you should take away from a republic is a society that is based on written law. In a perfect world, a republic has things that are documented on paper that are called laws. And everyone is supposed to be held accountable by those laws. That is why they are written down on paper. So far, it's not a perfect system, but so far it's been the best system that we were able to come up with. Because when you try to put all of your hope and trust into humanity, it never works. He says, let's see, collectivized society. If you watch my other video, you will notice that communism always talks about affirming is a big word. There's buzzwords in communism: affirming, collective. They use a lot of things. There's just a ton of buzzwords. It's just filled with it. So you can recognize I like to call it commu speak. You can recognize it pretty quickly if you know what you're looking for. It says the capitalist main function, it looks like you retweeted this again, is to suppress people and defend private property of capitalists and the bourgeoisie. So, the private property, I enjoy owning my private property. I know that there's a lot of people that do have, private property and own private property. I don't want, I have a house with a family in there, and, I have stuff in that house, and, I have food in that house. And if I have extra food, I might give it to somebody who's in need. But for the most part, I have children of my own, and I have to provide for those children. I don't think I would be, really willing to open up my home to anyone just to walk in and out of. I'm sure that there are some people that I would allow, to come over to my house if they were in need. But no, I'm sorry. My family, my responsibility lies with my family first and not my entire community. And I think that's a pretty reasonable position to have. In addition to class war in America, they have also have the unique role of enforcing race hierarchy, which there's absolutely no evidence of that. That's just total communist vomit. It's communist word vomit, and a war against BIPOC communities, people of color, and all that stuff. Well, whatever. I responded back to him that you can't dismantle hierarchy. He's talking about dismantling hierarchies and in the interest of people. And I'm telling him that you can't dismantle a hierarchy. The lust for power and status is a part of human nature. It's an integral part of human nature, and it's flawed ideology like he has that's supported ushering in tyrannical governments under the guise of social justice and empathy. Every communist regime says the same thing. It's, everybody has bread in the basket. Everybody's going to get this. And the reason why you have all these problems is because these people, socialists and communists, they do that all the time. And what socialists do, it's always like, you can tell people, well, the Nazis were socialists. Well, no, they weren't. They weren't socialists because this reason. And, but the fact of the matter is they did the same thing. They blamed a class of people, that were not considered at that time to be marginalized people. They were considered to be just like, what these people are saying about, whites and all these other things, that we're in control of all this stuff. That, well, the Nazis felt the same way about the Jews. The Jews were in control of everything. They were controlling their banks. They had their own, the Jews had their own separate economies, and it looked like they were ripping Germany off, and Germany was having to pay war reparations back to England from World War I. It was just this big mess. And, so Hitler wrote Mein Kampf and blamed the Jews for everything. So now we're in a similar situation where communists want to blame white, conservative, American, mostly male, people that, we're the oppressors. And that's the problem with history, is that people forget that the Germans looked at the Jews as oppressors. So we're really walking a fine line here with this insane ideology. But anyway, here you are, Twitter. There's communists. There's plenty of communists. I mean, all you have to do is go right up here in the search box and type in comrade. Now, the other thing that I wanted to share with you is the amount of subversion that's going on in Twitter. Now, I can sit here and I can tell you that this could be China, this could be Russia, this could be, it could be, it could be so many different things. It could be, I don't know if you know this, but you can outsource, different companies even from overseas to come in and do disinformation campaigns. So there's no shortage of that. But let me show you the reason why you should never take Twitter seriously. For example, this guy here, I don't know if he's genuinely a communist or if he is a paid actor or if he, is just trying to destabilize the country. And I say that, and I know what you're probably thinking. You're like, oh, come on, man. That's a little much. Well, let's look over here. A while back, I noticed during the election that when the election was just wasn't stolen, but looked and had all the signs and symptoms of a stolen election, but was not stolen. Okay. I noticed that there was a lot of tweets that seemed to say the same thing over and over again, and by the thousands on certain accounts. And I found that highly suspicious. And the first thing I thought of, because of the background and the history I've studied, was subversion tactics. And I said, this looks an awful lot like what a subversion attack looks like. Well, we have, in the midst of this, we have Daunte Wright shooting. By the way, I'll do another video on that. He had some minor warrants out for his arrest. He could have been home eating dinner tonight or being with his family, but he decided to resist the police and not go to jail for what I think are just minor misdemeanor offenses that he probably could have just got arrested and got out and signed out on his own recognizance, stuff like that. Could have came back, taken care of him later. I think this guy was an NFL player, for the Vikings. And so money shouldn't have been an issue with him. But he decided to resist arrest. And there's, a woman police officer there allegedly mistakenly pulled out a gun, thinking it was a taser, and shot him one time in the driver's seat of his car as he was trying to drive away. But we'll get to that later. For now, let's look at some of the things you can find on Twitter. Here's this guy, Charles A. Lovett, says, "Let this sink in. A black man is dead in Minnesota after being stopped by the police for dangling an air freshener from his rearview mirror." Now, I don't know if that's why he got stopped. Yet folks can storm the U.S. Capitol and live, which, that's not entirely true. They've gone back. First of all, there was a girl that did get shot that was running in there with an American flag. She was unarmed. I'm not saying that was the best decision she could have ever made in her life, but the other thing is the people that went into the Capitol, I mean, the FBI is going after these people. They're finding them and they're going to their houses. They're arresting them. So they're going to jail for breaking the law. But also, you can see clearly on video where the police let in waves of protesters into the Capitol building. They just lift the gates and let them walk on in. It was the strangest thing. Here's another one. George at Votes Blue Always. Let that sink in. Blah, blah. It's the same tweet. He's got a looks like a pretty substantial following. 1,000 likes, 454 retweets. Here's Clint. Whatever all that is. Let that sink in. A black man is dead. Now you'll see, we'll never stop fighting for justice. It's pretty close. No, that's the exact same tweet. Says Judge Carlos Moore. Oh no, here it is. Attorney Carlos Moore. So is he a judge or is he an attorney? I don't know. It looks like he's retweeting him, but who are these people? Let that sink in. A black man is dead in Minnesota after being stopped by police for dangling air fresheners rearview mirror. So you have that. Now, this might not be too convincing because this is only, 4, but let's see if they have any more on here. They popped up any more. Internet's so slow. Nope, no more. Let's turn the clock back a little bit, though. Let's look at the 2020 election and see the subversion activity that was going on there. There is a ton. I mean, these go all the way back to. I can keep on going. Now, if you notice, these are all written in bold. There's a specific reason for that. It's because I was able to find this tweet and resurface it and match this exact tweet. And how many accounts did this exact tweet over and over again? And some of these accounts got retweets. There's a lot more than this. It just happened to stop at December 4, but there's a whole lot more. I guarantee you, if I did a date search, it would be crazy. There's probably, I would wager to say, hundreds of thousands that were sending this tweet. This tweet basically says, oh, here it goes. It's loading more. I love seeing Trump supporters cry. It's my daily medicine, my weekly energy, my monthly inspiration, and my yearly motivation. Their loss is the only reason I'm still alive. I was born to love and enjoy the failure that they have achieved. Okay. We can scan through and see how many different accounts. Don't be fooled by seeing some of the same names over again. I mean, this tweet has made rounds by so many accounts. It's unreal. There's only a few ways that this tweet could have went around like this. A lot of them, they were first starting out, and there were a lot of Asian memes attached to these tweets, which leads me to believe that this was a Chinese subversion attack on Twitter. And it's just basically just the same tweet over and over again. It goes on and on and on for a very long time. All these different accounts getting on here and running these tweets over and over again. But I know what you're thinking. Oh, well, Trump supporter, if you're on the left side of the aisle, don't worry. They had one for Biden too, and we'll get to that. But you could see that there was many, many more accounts. I don't even think Twitter can actually load all the accounts that had this tweet basically being copy and pasted everywhere. You can go over here and you could see that the Trump one took off because obviously Trump didn't win the election. But back in November and December, they had the same thing going on here. I love seeing Biden supporters cry. It's my daily medicine, my weekly energy, my monthly inspiration. These people had a lot of comments, a lot of retweets. I mean, when you look at this one message has went through the internet many hundreds of thousands of times. Biden supporters cry. I love seeing Biden supporters cry. My point is this: no matter what side of the fence you're on, the idea of communist subversion isn't to get you to be a Democrat or a Republican. That's not what they're trying to do. What they have to do is they have to sow in divisiveness. And this whole diversity and inclusion thing, it's disguised as a way they can basically, they can sound like they're trying to do something good, but what they're really trying to do is they're trying to chop the country up into smaller pieces and keep everybody fighting. And this is how they do it. Now, what I imagine, given the scale of this particular tweet is, I'm sure there's going to be more loading. This is probably over thousands of accounts, so I imagine that there must have been some kind of country. I'm going to say that it was most likely, given the memes that were generated on these tweets, were China. And the crazy thing is if you go into, like, say if I go into any one of these tweets with a reasonable following, like this person had 20 likes and 12 comments. He's got 102 followers. That was back in November. We can kind of see he's from Barcelona, which I seriously doubt he's from Barcelona. But some of his other tweets are just normal tweets. I would pay someone to write me an essay. I need a new logo ASAP. You know, and they don't have anything to do necessarily with politics. People agreeing in the replies are starving. She won't shag you guys. I mean, you know, they sound like normal people, and that's the crazy part. But they all of a sudden, they all jumped on this train when this train was leaving the station. So I've seen videos of like people in China with like wall boards and just like 150 phones attached to a board, and they're all sitting there on different accounts on Twitter, and they're all tweeting all at the same time. I imagine that's one of these situations. Anyway, I just wanted to make you aware that subversion is very active, and Twitter is a perfect platform for subversion activities because it's small snippets of quotes. You can't write too much, and it's a quick read, and it's a way to condense an ideology, get it out quickly, and spread it out to the world. So we do have to be careful. Communism is real. It is pervasive on Twitter specifically. One more thing before we let you go. If I go in here and I type in, let's just go back over to this one. I type in the word comrade, and I type in latest tweet. I don't know why my internet says, hello, comrade. I see you. I don't know. There's a lot going on here, but anyway, you can see comrade Maoist, La Fresha comrade, comrade Kit Kat, digital comrade, communist corn. Some of them are just, I mean, some of them are out in the open. You'll find your fair share of communists. And if I type in Antifa, Antifa comrade, we'll see what Comrade California, Empress of Antifa. So these movements are communist movements, they're Marxist movements. They're not based on really helping oppressed people. They're based on engaging and igniting a revolution in the United States to usher in communist ideologies. That's all I have.